The throne hall of the high citadel was carved from pale stone that seemed grown rather than built. Light from a distant star filtered through crystal arches, washing the chamber in soft gold. Rows of nobles stood in silence, their elaborate garments whispering as they shifted. At the center of the hall, upon a raised dais, sat the alien queen, her presence pressed down on the room like gravity itself. Before her stood a single human. His name was Eli. He wore no armor, no royal colors, no symbols of rank, just a simple dark uniform worn thin from travel. His hands were clasped behind his back, posture straight, face calm. Too many in the hall, he looked fragile, too small or too soft, a creature from a young world that should not have survived long enough to stand here. The queen studied him with eyes that had watched empires rise and fall. Her voice, when she spoke, echoed through the chamber without effort. "You will marry my daughter tomorrow, human." A ripple moved through the hall. Shock, disbelief. Some nobles leaned forward. Others stiffened in outrage. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Eli did not speak at once. He met the queen's gaze, unblinking. The queen's daughter stood to the side of the throne. Her name was Lyra. She was tall, luminous, her expression carefully controlled. Only the slight tightening of her fingers betrayed her surprise. She had known this moment might come one day, but not like this. Not so sudden. Not with a human. Eli finally spoke, his voice steady. "Your Majesty," he said, "may I ask why?" A murmur rose again, sharper this time. Questioning the queen was allowed only to the brave or the foolish. The queen's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "Because my people stand on the edge of extinction," she said, "and because your people do not." Silence returned, deeper than before. The queen rose from her throne. As she descended the steps, the hall seemed to shrink around her. She stopped a short distance from Eli, close enough that he could see the faint lines of age at the corners of her eyes. "For generations," she continued, "we have relied on strength, on technology, on alliances forged through fear. None of it saved us. Our enemies adapt faster than we do. Our worlds burn one by one." She turned slightly, gesturing toward the vast star map hovering behind the throne. Entire regions glowed dimly, marked with signs of loss. Then humans arrived. Eli said nothing. "You were weaker," the queen said. "Your ships slower, your weapons crude. That is what we believed." Her gaze sharpened. "But when attacked, you did not break. You endured. You learned. You returned stronger each time. You fight not for conquest, but for survival. That makes you dangerous in ways my enemies cannot comprehend." Some of the nobles shifted uncomfortably. Others looked at Eli with new interest. "My daughter will inherit this throne," the queen said. "She will need more than power. She will need resilience. She will need humanity." Lyra inhaled slowly. This was not how she imagined her future, but she understood the weight of her mother's words. Eli's brow furrowed, not in fear, but in thought. "With respect," he said, "marriage is not a treaty humans take lightly." The queen nodded once. "Nor do we. That is why I chose you." That night, Eli stood alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Towers of living crystal stretched toward the sky, their lights pulsing like a shared heartbeat. Somewhere below, celebrations had already begun, even as protests formed in quieter corners. Footsteps approached. Lyra stopped beside him, leaving a respectful distance. "I did not ask for this," she said. "Neither did I," Eli replied. They stood in silence for a moment, watching aircraft drift like glowing fish through the sky. "You could refuse," Lyra said quietly. "My mother would be furious, but she would not force you." Eli shook his head. "If I refuse, what happens to your people?" Lyra did not answer. She did not need to. Eli exhaled slowly. "Humans have a saying. When you find yourself in a storm, you do not ask why the rain falls. You decide who you will be when it does." Lyra studied him, curiosity breaking through her royal composure. "And who will you be?" "Someone who does not run." The next day, the ceremony was broadcast across multiple systems. Millions watched as a human and an alien princess stood side by side beneath the great arch of unity. Their vows were simple. No flowery words, just promises of protection, honesty, and shared burden. Some called it a scandal. Others called it hope. War came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after the marriage, enemy fleets emerged from folded space at the edge of the system. Their ships were vast, angular, cold. They had studied the queen's people for centuries. They believed this alliance a weakness. The queen watched the tactical display from the command chamber, her expression calm. "They come for our heart," one advisor said. "No," the queen replied. "They come for our mistake." All eyes turned to Eli. Eli stood among officers twice his size, species with claws, scales, and enhanced minds. He wore a simple command insignia now, newly assigned. "They will strike the capital first," Eli said. "They want to shatter morale." An admiral scoffed softly. "And you know this, how, human?" "Because that is what we would do," Eli replied. Lyra watched him, seeing not a consort but a strategist shaped by countless human conflicts. Eli stepped closer to the display. "They believe we will defend the city at all costs, so we will let them think that." The plan was risky, almost reckless. The fleet would pull back, leaving the capital seemingly exposed. The enemy would advance, confident of victory. Then the humans would act. Hidden among the alien fleet were human vessels, their signatures masked, their crews silent. They had trained for this kind of war. Not clean, not glorious, but effective. When the enemy entered the kill zone, space itself seemed to erupt. Human ships moved unpredictably, cutting through formations, striking supply lines, disrupting command signals. They did not fight like the enemy expected. They did not fight like anyone expected. They adapted mid-battle. The Queen's people followed, learning in real time, adjusting their own tactics. What began as a desperate defense became a coordinated counterstrike on the bridge. Lyra watched the tide turn. "This is how humans fight," she asked. Eli nodded. "This is how we survive." The battle ended with the enemy retreating in chaos, their losses severe. The capital stood untouched. Across the system, a message spread. Humanity was not weak. Weeks later, the Queen stood once more in the throne hall. This time, the mood was different. Pride replaced fear. Respect replaced doubt. She looked at Eli and Lyra standing together before her. "My daughter," she said, "do you accept this union still?" Lyra did not hesitate. "Yes." The Queen turned to Eli. "And you, human?" Eli met her gaze. "Yes." The Queen nodded, satisfied. From that day forward, the alliance was no longer questioned. Worlds that once dismissed humans now sought their counsel. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because they refused to give up. And in a universe filled with ancient powers and endless wars, that refusal changed everything.